All right, everybody. Today we are joined by one of the most driven and hard-hitting names on the independent professional wrestling circuit. This is Duane Cashman. Fans know him from tearing it up on Friday nights with Pro Wrestling Mid-South and from his work with Nonstop Wrestling Alliance and Inhuman Championship Wrestling. Now, over his career, this man, he has held the Quality Pro Wrestling Ambition Championship, become a 3-time Nonstop Wrestling Alliance Tag Team Champion, and has also reigned as the Inhuman Championship Wrestling Heavyweight Champion. Duane Cashman, welcome to the show.
It's a pleasure to be here, man. You know, I've been watching y'all's podcast go on for a little while now. I've been watching y'all on TikTok, watching y'all on Tuesday and Thursday nights. Thursday nights with you and Edgar, and then on Monday and Fridays after Raw and SmackDown. So
it's really good to have you, man. I know you and I have been in constant communication for a part of the year already. So
yeah, that we have. It's been it was because I messaged you, talking about wrestling specifically, about the fact that I have been wrestling for 6 years now and whatnot, and we pretty much just been cool since then,
Yeah. One of the boys, myself, for those who don't know, former professional wrestler for about 5.5 years. Duane, easily way more accomplished than I was when I was in my career. But let's go ahead and get started here. So Duane, you are an incredible performer. Anybody, by the way, who's curious to see what this man can do, check out his TikTok channel. He's extremely underrated. Check out his Instagram as well. And we're going to have him plug that at the end of the show. But you can look him up under Duane Cashman, spelled D-U-A-N-E, Cashman. Okay, this guy is great. He's charismatic. He's fun as hell to watch. He's crisp in the ring. And as a wrestler myself, when I watch other wrestlers wrestle, wrestlers can't help but, pick apart each other's game. It's kind of a normal part of the psychology. You learn by watching. You don't just get in there, do your shit, and get out. You got to absorb what other people are doing, and that's how you get better. And you go, oh, man, maybe I should try that. Oh, man, I should do that. And when I watch you in the ring, all I see is someone who is so damn smooth. So what I want to know is, as smooth as you are, it doesn't always start out that way. So take us back. When did you first fall in love with wrestling? And was there a specific moment or a match or a wrestler that made you say, that's what I want to do?
It started, like, my love for professional wrestling in general started back when I was about 5, 6. I was flipping through the TV as a young child, trying to find something to watch. I came across Monday Night Raw. I was watching a Jeff Hardy match, and watching Jeff Hardy caused me to fall in love with it. And another wrestler that I fell in love with watching was Edge back then. One match that stood out to me that got me thinking like, hey, this is something that I want to do was Jeff Hardy versus Umaga, when Jeff Hardy hit that swanton bomb off of the semi-truck.
I remember
it was that, and then anything Eddie Guerrero. So it's quite a few guys. So
that's amazing, man.
Now recently.
Sorry, there's a bit of a lag there.
Yeah, you good.
But so like for me, I'm kind of the same way you were, where I knew what wrestling was 25, 26 years ago. I loved The Rock. I loved him to death, but I was never in love with wrestling until I actually saw Jeff Hardy wrestle. And then my brother took me to go see a TNA Impact show over here in Orlando, Florida, just 35 minutes up the road from me, where I literally got to watch Kurt Angle and Sting and all these guys for my first ever wrestling show ever in like 2007, I believe, where the first time I was ever live sitting there watching this stuff happen. And it was off to the races for me, man. But you and I have that in common, where we've done our Mount Rushmores on the channel. Everybody knows CM Punk is my dog. That's my dude. but Jeff Hardy was my GOAT and is my GOAT to this day. The hood loves him.
See, my goal interchanges it because for me on my Mount Rushmore, it's always AJ Styles and Jeff Hardy that interchange.
That's fair, though. I've met AJ Styles several times. I have his autograph and everything. And he's one of those guys that when I look at him, I always think, I hope to God when I am in my 40s, I look that damn good and wrestle like a 20-year-old, because I don't know how the man moves the way he does pushing 50. It's insane to me.
That man has one gear and it's go.
Yeah, that's fair. But let's go ahead and move on to my next question for you. The business has changed, because way back in the late 80s, 90s, it was almost impossible to know how the hell to break into this business. And so many people broke in by, flipping through a magazine and coming across an ad, or a friend saw a post in a newspaper, or someone put, something up on a pegboard somewhere in town or at the library. And then you just found out, oh, hey, there's a wrestling school, but there was no internet. So you couldn't just look up, hey, wrestling schools near me and how much they cost and, what it's going to take to get there. No, it was all a guessing game. So nowadays, where, it's the age of the internet, it's the age of everybody having all the world's information in the palm of their hand at any given time. How did you get started? How did you break into the business? And who were some of the people who helped guide you early on in your journey?
That's a good question. For me, it wasn't through the internet like here recently how most people do it. Me, it was I graduated in a small town in Tennessee called Union City, Tennessee, and I graduated from that high school. And I had some friends that have family members that did it around here in this area, and so those friends, they started wrestling and whatnot, and they showed me a local promotion at the time. It was called Union City Wrestling before they rebranded as Quality Pro, and then a bunch of stuff happened and they went back to being Union City Wrestling. Well, when I started going to Union City Wrestling as a fan, I found out after I graduated that I could train there, and I started training there late 27, going into late 2017, because I was getting ready to go to college. So I went to college and I came back home because of my mother had some health issues. So I came home, took care of her, and then I started training, like I said, late 2017 going into 2018, and I didn't have my first match until February of 2019. The guy that I've won the Nonstop Wrestling Alliance Tag Team Championships with twice, his name is Rob Danger on Friday Nights in Pro Wrestling Mid-South. He's like a brother to me. He had a big part in helping training me. Another guy, his name is Quicksilver, who wrestles for Union City Wrestling. And here, after my 6-year mark in wrestling now at Inhuman Championship Wrestling, is a guy by the name of Danny Ice. And he's been helping me with the ring psychology aspect of it. And now that I wrestle for Pro Wrestling Mid-South on Friday nights, the promoter there, he's tagged with beautiful Bobby Eaton. So he has a great mind for the business. And now that I'm wrestling for him on Friday nights, he's teaching me more about the old school ways of professional wrestling.
That's really good. I really love that. It's because, the journey for everybody is going to always be different. When I got into it, I backyard wrestled for almost 8 years straight with my best friends. We did birthday parties and weddings and everything else. But when I moved to Georgia, because my parents were moving, they sold their house right after I graduated. And the college I wanted to go to down here wouldn't accept my specific scholarship that I got because they were a privately accredited college. So I couldn't go there because I wanted to get a degree in performing arts and in directing. And so when that didn't work, I said, well, screw it. I went to Georgia with my parents, upstate Georgia in the Blue Ridge Mountains in Morganton, in the small town where there was this wrestling promotion that we found on the first day when we sat down at a diner for lunch before we started unpacking all the U-Haul and stuff. And right there on the board, there's a match card being advertised for Deep South Championship Wrestling, Morganton, Georgia. My brother and I go to the show. We get jobs in an apple orchard. We start going to these shows every week until they go, hey, you guys are always here and you're always asking if you can help, if you can move chairs. Would you guys like to be on ring crew? Hell yeah. They're like, we can't pay anything, but we can give you free concession and you guys can always sit in the front row if you want. Sounds great. So that turned into my brother went off for a different adventure in a different state in Maryland. I stayed and I got a job in Atlanta, 2 hours away from my town where I was staying. But I was like, well, I want to pro wrestle. These guys are offering to train me, not for a lot of money. And they're only going to pay me $25, $30 every show. And I still help break down the ring and I still do it all. But they're offering to train me. So I was trained by a guy named Shaggy. That was his ring name. I don't even know his actual name because he only ever told me his name was Shaggy. I gave this guy like $600 and he trained me for about 3 months. And now training can go on forever. Sometimes a year, sometimes it's 6 months. This is indies training. This is shotgun training. And the rest of shit you're going to learn in the ring. People forget that. My least favorite part of training was probably always bump training. I went home sore as shit. But my mom never wanted me to wrestle because I've had open heart surgery twice. So I used to lie about driving to work, but really I'd go to a show and I'd wrestle. And I lied to the promotion about medical issues. So they would train me. I never showed them what I look like without my shirt off, so they never saw my scar.
Right. Once I turned 18, my mom knew she couldn't stop me.
I mean, it's not that my mom couldn't stop me. It's that I knew that if she knew what I was doing, she would have been the one to storm down there and go, you can't let him wrestle here. It's not safe. His heart, yada, yada, yada. So I kept it away from her because I wasn't about to have my mom storm up in there and embarrass me. But that being said, I love that, everybody's beginnings in wrestling aren't always humble beginnings. Sometimes people get help in on the door. Maybe they know somebody, a Liv Morgan who knew someone who got her in with a tryout, that kind of person. Or maybe you're already a collegiate athlete. Maybe you're already a former Olympian. And, because of that pedigree or the NFL or whatever, you've already got a way in the door. When it comes to challenges, because starting off is extremely difficult. It's challenging. You're trying to afford your ring gear. You're trying to afford the training. You're trying to work maybe even a regular job while having time to actually do this freaking thing you love maybe once a week if you're lucky, however many times they'll book you, while you're still trying to promote yourself everywhere you can, because it's the indies. No one's paying to promote you. You're promoting you when you start out. So, with that being said, what were the biggest hurdles in your first couple of years of wrestling? And was there ever a point where you thought, you know what, I'm going to walk away from this? And if so, what was it that kept you going?
Well, personally, the toughest challenge for me starting out was the first promotion that I ever started working for. I was loyal to them for about 2.5, 3 years. And in the first 2 years, I felt like they had their favorites in the locker room. The guys that have been working 6, 7+ years, guys that, are their buddy with outside of the ring. And I felt like they were the ones that were all getting the opportunity. But I was the one in there every day of training, busting my ass. I was the one helping tear down the ring whenever we had shows outside of our main building. I was the one there help setting the ring up. I was the one there cleaning. I was the one asking questions, figuring out what it was that I could do. And I never felt like they had any faith in me. I had a situation with Robert Murray. We were in an angle, and this was right after my first child was born. I knew, and obviously, fans know that there are some fans that are smart to what professional wrestling is actually about. And I already knew what was being ready to be said. So and I had okayed it. My brother, he said something about my child after she was born. So me in character would go after that heel to avenge what he said about my daughter. And I eventually got him back in the ring, hit him with my finish at the time, got on the mic, and basically told him, I said, if you ever talk about my wife or my kids again, I will end your fucking career. Well, we got took off the card the next show after that. And the promoters pulled us to the back and basically told us that, told both of us that they didn't want us there originally because of where we both came from. That I was told that I should have stayed in the crowd instead of training. And so, like I said, about 2.5 years after that, I looked at my wife, my in-laws, who are they're like close parents to me. So I really call them my in-laws unless, I'm talking to somebody that doesn't really know the dynamic. But I told my parents, I was like, I'm done. I'm only 2.5 years in. I'm about to hang the boots up. And if it wasn't for them, my wife, who is my manager ring-wise now for certain promotions, and my kids having a smile on their face every time they see me in the ring, I would have hung my boots up about 4 years ago.
That's incredible, man. I mean, first off, it sucks too because a lot of professional wrestlers go through this, whether it can be some form of very onset felt prejudice for any kind of reason, for whomever you are, what you look like, your creed, your whatever. To be told that you don't belong, in my opinion, has always been one of the most asinine things a promoter can say to a talent. Because in my head, how do you know I don't belong? I'm just getting started. Because I got news for you. People forget the name John Cena is big now. People forget he was once on the chopping block for getting fired and only got lucky that he was rapping in the back of the same tour bus that Stephanie McMahon was sitting on. They told him he didn't belong. Right. People forget that at one point, The Undertaker was told by WCW, no one's ever going to pay to see you wrestle, and that's why they wouldn't give him more money when it came to another re-signing of a contract, and that's when he went over to WWE. So I love it when that promoters don't ever seem to learn this lesson. You can never tell a young and up-and-comer or a young starting talent or a blue chipper, a prospect, you can't tell them, hey, you shouldn't be here. You should be in the crowd. You shouldn't be in this ring. You've got no business here. Well, and it's funny. That's easy coming from the promoter sitting there counting the cash that they're already barely paying. So for them to sit there and look you in the eyes and basically say, hey, I have no faith in you. Well, then why do I wrestle for you? You know what I'm saying? So I feel like the fact that you got taken to the edge was very, very fair. That, I think a normal person, most people are going to sit there and go, the people that are paying me to be here are telling me I shouldn't even be here. So why am I here? Why am I doing this? Of course, you're going to question that. But I think the true merit and honor of a person is proving that when someone tells you you can't do something, you have two choices. You can either listen to the negative and the naysayers, or you can push through and say, no. The only person who says I don't get to belong here is me. And that's when I choose to hang the boots up, not when you tell me to. So I tip my hat to you for that, for sure. And you know what that leads me into? The fact that someone would tell you don't. Go ahead.
Look at me 4 years later. I'm a former world heavyweight champion, a 3-time tag team champion. I've done so many things here since all of that. I have promoters that have guys come to them like, we don't want you. We don't want him in this locker room. It's like, no, the plans we have for this company involve this kid.
Exactly. It's funny that sometimes all it takes is one person to see the gold in you. And that person, that's a person who looks at you as a future star, as someone who they know can make it, who has what it takes to be that guy, to be the guy or the gal. And that's what's important. And that leads me into this next thing. From someone telling you, hey, I don't believe in you. Hey, you don't belong here. Go back in the crowd. You never should have left them. And then it's hilarious because you are a freaking former champion, a multi-time former champion. Are you still currently a champion, might I ask? So my boy is still a current champion. So let's talk about the fact real quick, because I'd like to shine some light on this again. This is Duane Cashman, folks, a man who was told that he should never leave the crowd. This man has held the Quality Pro Wrestling Ambition Championship, 3 NSWA Tag Team titles, and the Inhuman Championship Wrestling Heavyweight Championship. One of those runs is got to be your favorite. Which of those title reigns is your actual favorite? Because I know it might be hard to pick, but there's got to be one that you go, man, I had a freaking great time doing that.
That's a tough one, because my first 2 NSWA Tag Team title runs was with my brother Rob. And that first run, we were heels, and we pretty much ran roughshod on the NSWA locker room tag division and the locker room in general as tag team champions that first run. And my Inhuman heavyweight title win is so special too, because that was the first night that my wife started managing me ringside, and I won that title in front of Buff Bagwell.
Wow, that's a good feeling.
Like Buff Bagwell in the ring when I won that title.
That's a really good feeling. That's got to feel great. That's awesome.
Like Buff told me to watch my match that night, because so you know the concept of the Money in the Bank. Well, Inhuman Championship Wrestling, they did this thing. It was a scramble match, and whoever won, they got a championship opportunity whenever they wanted. Well, I had won that scramble match 2 months before, and so I wrestled a match the night that I won the title. The heavyweight champion at the time, he had won his match. He was in the ring mouthing off to Buff. Well, Buff gave him that right hand that he throws and knocked him out. That prime opportunity for me to cash in, you know. I channeled my inner edge, the ultimate opportunist, you know. So I cashed in. Keep in mind, I did this with a dislocated shoulder. I cashed in. Ref counted to 3, and like I said, Buff Bagwell was standing in the ring when this happened.
That's freaking awesome. That's a great moment. So that leads me into my next question then. Of all of the matches you've ever had, and I know this is going to be an extremely difficult question, because I feel like every wrestler always feels like, you know, the next my worst match is my last match. My next match is my best match, because that's how you keep yourself in the game. But if you had to pick between any of your title matches or any regular match you've had that wasn't with you holding the gold as a reigning champion, or a match that just, you know, for a sentimental reason, just because maybe, you know, your family is there and your wife is your manager, you know, which match is your favorite that you have ever wrestled of all time that stands out to you in this moment?
Okay, so this was during hold on. This was during my first run as the NSWA Tag Team Champion. It's sad, but it's still one of my favorite memories of all time. Is because it's sad because my brother Rob had lost his son a month before. So the NSWA, there's one of the shows that we did. It was one of our traveling shows. They turned that entire show into a benefit show for my brother, with the fact that he had just lost his son. We were not supposed to be the main event that night. We were supposed to be semi, but we were just told that we were going to go on as main that night. And the crowd, like we are the top heels of the company at this time. These travel fans knew that we were the top heels at this time, and just to see an entire locker room, an entire fan base band together for someone that they don't know that personal, just to see them band together for something like that, it was a great moment. But the match itself, we defended the tag team titles against the number one contenders. The tag name is Low Life Incorporated. It's JM Knight and Jack Diamond. And we went out there and put on one of the best tag matches I've been in a long time. And just for my brother to hit his flying elbow drop right after a T-bone suplex to win the match, to retain the titles, is just probably one of my favorite memories of all time.
I think that's really special. You said it was your basically your nephew had passed, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
My condolences. And I think what that makes me think of entirely is that's what wrestling is supposed to be, right? Wrestling is supposed to be about emotion and family and feeling and taking the things that don't seem like reality, but putting them on a stage and telling stories in a match that, yes, it's physical, but in the confines of a squared circle, legitimately, you are a storyteller. And I don't think there's anything more powerful than telling a story about heart, family, love, and winning and retaining to honor, the memory of a loved one, and to have everybody come together like that in the building. That's what wrestling is about. That's what it's about. That is the quintessential best part. You take away all the high spots. You take away, the big, high flying moves. You take away the technical wrestling and the promos. At its core, wrestling is about the unity of the fans and their connection with those people in the ring, and vice versa. It is a give and take. And I think that's really poignant. And I think that's beautiful. And as far as concerned, when we're talking about being an independent wrestler, from whether it is, championship runs, being told you don't belong, to even having to wrestle while you're also suffering a loss, what is it like to be, in your personal opinion and in your personal experience, a professional wrestler in 2025? What does that grind look like these days for an indie wrestler? And how has the independent wrestling scene changed since you started about 6 years ago, which is right before COVID, mind you?
Ooh, that right before COVID, that was the time, because that, with the pandemic going on, there was like 2 to 3 months that I couldn't get in a ring because of the pandemic. But for me personally, the grind, it's a work-life balance. You get what I'm saying? I have to be able to balance being a father, being a husband, being an older sibling, being a son. I have to balance all of that with being able to differentiate between who I am in the ring and then who I am as a family member. Like, I know there are guys that's going to tell you that, well, the grind should look like what you're eating and being in the gym more often than not. But me personally, I've always been one of those guys that's always been in shape no matter what he's done. And I don't take that for granted. I still do like small workouts here at home when I'm watching my kids, hanging out with my kids and my family. I still do small stuff like that to stay in shape. But I don't believe it should be something that I have to be in the gym every day for this many hours, eating this many calories a day. I mean, I do want to get to the point where I want to put on a little bit more muscle in my grind to be a professional wrestler. But it's also a social media thing too, because I met Crazy Steve a couple months back, and I asked him what could I do to boost my presence, and he said instead of telling me I need to get in the gym, he said you need to build a social media presence. He said look at Logan Paul. He said Logan Paul isn't somebody that you would expect that's going to be a professional wrestler. He said the reason he's there is because he brought more fans to the WWE. He brought more fans to professional wrestling. And Crazy Steve said if you can build a social media presence, everything else will fall in place. So for me personally, it's being able to stay in shape, being able to balance your out of ring life and your in-ring life and everything you do on social media. That's what my daily grind looks like as a professional, indie professional wrestler.
Okay, yeah. I mean, it is a work-life balance. I mean, it's different when you're young and you're starting and you're not in a committed, serious relationship, at least like a marriage. I'm married myself. It's very different than just dating someone. It's a different commitment to be friends. It's a different commitment to be in dating. It's a different commitment to be engaged. Being married is like, it is the commitment. And then when you have children change everything, from your responsibilities to your attitude, to your time management, to your outward responsibilities, your career, your aspirations, your dreams, because you have these little human beings that need you. They need your attention. They need your love. They need your protection. They need your education and your time, and they need your safety. And when you wrestling has always been a very, very one-sided road, when it comes to being a family person. You have to go and perform. You've got to leave the house. You have to go and travel. Sometimes you miss birthday parties, or you're going to miss a funeral. You're going to miss an anniversary. It's a dedication that quite literally requires you to share your life in almost equal parts with the grind in the career and the man or the woman at home raising and being with their family. And I think a lot of people forget the hardship of that. When you look at someone in a ring, you look at someone on your TV screen, these larger than life personalities, or these independent professional wrestlers that captivate you that come visit you in your town. These people, they are not just these characters. These people are human beings. These people have things going on in their lives just like you. And and when they're in that ring, they are kind of saying, hey, I'm putting all of my personal shit aside to entertain you. The moment I step in this ring, nothing outside of these ropes has anything to do with what's going on in this ring, except for me entertaining you. And I think that fans, there's a respect that, more diehard fans have for that I think is a little unsung on the rest of the wrestling fandom and community. I commend a person who has a family and does this as their career, as their passion, because a family is also a full-time job. That being said, yes, sir. And you're a father. That is the responsibility of responsibilities for a man. So when we're talking about, go ahead and say that one more time for me.
I got two little girls. Girl dad.
So you better get them wrestling moves down pat, because when they hit teen years, you about to be pile driving boys left and right. you gotta tell them kids,
because my 5-year-old, she already throws the right hands like I do, and then my 1-year-old, she's just mean.
You know what you got to do the first time they bring a boy home. All right, you can date my daughter if you can take this choke slam. If you can take this choke slam full flat back, you can date my daughter. You got to take the superplex off the roof. You got to take the superplex off the roof. I'm going to set up the table and the trash cans.
Oh,
well, you must not be that serious. Yeah, you must not be that serious about my daughter. What do you call it? You look at a little chicken shit. You look. Speaking of chicken shit, by the way, and speaking of, children, your babies, chicken shit being the heel, baby face being the good guy. You have worked both sides of the crowd. You and I have talked about this in private. What's the biggest difference between wrestling as a heel versus a baby face for you? And which one do you prefer over the other?
For me, the biggest differences between the two is, as the good guy, the baby face, it's hard to find a way to connect with the crowd. You know, the babyface is supposed to be the guy that the crowd wants to gravitate to. And some crowds in different areas you have to find a way that you're going to connect with them. And that's always the hardest part for me as a babyface. As a heel, I think it's easier because I can just go out there and look at somebody and be like, your baby's ugly, and just walk off. I've been told, here's a funny story. I have a cousin that I started training. And this story happened well before I knew he was my cousin. And he was just one of those kids that was in the crowd that just loved to heckle me all the time, which let me know that I was doing my job as a heel. Well, one night I went up to him and he was just mouthing off, and I looked at him. I said, "This is why your friends and family don't love you, because you don't ever shut up." Well, 2 years later, I found out he's my cousin. He looks at me, he goes, "So, that comment you made, guess what? We're cousins." I said, "Well, I think I gotta take it back." But I always enjoy being a heel because it's easier just to talk, to just, jaw jack with the fans than it is to try and find a way to connect with them.
When I wrestled primarily. I was a baby face for 2 weeks, and then they were like, "You just have a natural." Because I'm the guy that always clap backs in the locker room. I'm the guy that shit talks. Like you say something I don't like, I will let you know it immediately. And I'm not the guy that backs down ever. I don't care if I know that I'm outmatched. I will run my mouth and then I will throw hands with you in 5 freaking milliseconds. That's always been me. And when I worked for DSCW, they clocked exactly. Well, they clocked that with me, and they were like, you should work heel. You should at least try working heel. I was a natural at it within about a month. I completely understood what worked for me, what didn't. I remember one time I literally took a kid's drink for walking past the rail, walking to the apron, grabbed this kid's drink, leaned right in front of him, and I freaking chugged this kid's drink, handed it back to him. His dad lunged for me, and I hopped up on that apron, got in, turned around, flipped his kid off, and got in that ring and finished my entrance. Being heel is extremely satisfying because it's all this shit, all those what do the kids call them now? Intrusive thoughts that you have in your real life that you can't do in the real world without causing 15 fist fights a day. But in the confines of wrestling, right, fair game.
Like one of my the night, it wasn't the night we lost the titles, it was the night before. It was the show before. We were doing our entrance, me and the guy that I was tagging with, his name is Eric Kilpatrick, and we were the tag team champions at the time. And we were making our entrance, and the fans, they were just being loud, booing me left and right, booing him left and right. I looked at him, I said, "You all have no common sense." I said, "When God made it rain common sense, every last one of you had an umbrella."
Oh man, that I'm stealing that. I've never heard that in my life, and that is hilarious. I am stealing that. That will be a Facebook post sometime by tomorrow. That's freaking hilarious. That's genius, by the way. Well, as we wind down this interview, my brother, because it's been a lot of fun, as we talk about looking ahead in your career, where do you see yourself going from here? Are there any specific promotions or opponents or championships you've got your eye on? I know you're currently working with some promotions right now, so if you don't want to say anything, you don't have to. But when you look back at, your career so far, as it continues, what do you hope the fans understand about you from who you are now and who you were on the way up to who you are now?
Well, the first question, I do see myself on a bigger stage at some point, either AEW, wrestling, WWE, those are always the goal. But I do want to see myself at either OVW or GCW at some point. Non-stop Wrestling Alliance wise, I have my eye on the United States title and the heavyweight title, because those are the only 2 titles in the company that elude me. For Inhuman Championship Wrestling, we just got brand new tag team titles, so I think I'm gonna have to find me a tag partner and pick those up at some point. But I do have my eye on that heavyweight title again. And for my career, for the fans, I just hope that the day I decide to hang it up, I hope that they remember the smiles that I put on their faces. It's never been about the big being able to put a smile on somebody else's face when they're going through a hard time, or being able to, take people out of reality for a while. That's all I really want to do when I'm wrestling, is just put a smile on somebody's face. So that's what I hope the fans take from me as a performer at the end of my career.
Hey, Duane.
Hey, Duane.
Can you hear me, brother?
Can you hear me, brother?
Hold on, I think something happened with the audio here for a second.
Hold on, I think something happened with the audio here for a second.
One second, brother. I think there's a technical difficulty with the audio. We'll cut all this part out.
Difficulty with the audio. We'll cut all this part out.
I can't hear you.